The story, The Enigmatic Basement. Dude. Dewey's slap on the shoulder startled her. Why have you been so absent-minded lately? We still have half a semester left before the university entrance exams. Is it the stress from studying too much? I read in the news about many students who suffer from physical exhaustion, and some even experience nervous breakdowns. She pondered whether she should tell Dewey about the strange sensation she experienced every night, but she feared he would dismiss her as crazy. On her way back from school, her mind kept wandering to the peculiar sounds beneath her pillow. The dripping of water, murmurs, growls, or something akin to someone's voice. Could it all just be her imagination these past few months? This time, she was startled by her mother's voice. Tomorrow, get some vegetables and fish for dinner. I have some flower arrangements to prepare as we have orders to deliver in the afternoon. Sure, Mom. I'll bring the food out once it's ready. She lived with her mother and younger sister. Her mother was skillful, managing both a flower shop and a bakery at the market. Her flowers were beautiful, and her cakes were delicious. The two sisters often praised her for it. Indeed, they were delicious and beautiful. In contrast, the two sisters were clumsy, not knowing much besides studying. As for their father, they never heard much about him, not even half a word. Rumor had it that he left for another woman, starting a new family. Yet, he still regularly sent money to support the two sisters. Memories of their father were blurry and distant. If they were to meet outside, they probably wouldn't even recognize each other. As she grew older, she understood her mother's pain more deeply, and her resentment towards the man who bore some responsibility for their existence grew stronger. This morning, she had an early break from classes and decided to visit Dewey's father at the hospital for her nerve checkup. Everything was fine, except for one thing. I've been wanting to tell you this for a while, but I was afraid your nerves wouldn't handle it, Dewey said. What is it? If you don't tell me, I'll be even more worried. Besides, your stories have never been nerve-wracking for me. Listening to her friend's sarcasm, she felt a chill run down her spine, but Dewey continued. According to my dad, your house used to belong to some wealthy Westerner who had a secret basement where he would imprison those who betrayed him until they perished. A sudden gust of cold wind made her hair stand on end. Could it be that the sounds she heard, the dripping of water, the growls, were the voices of lingering souls? Ah! She screamed, causing nearby butterflies to flutter away hastily. Everyone looked at her with suspicious eyes. Dewey, being the closest, bore the brunt of her scream and ended up falling to the ground. If you're trying to scare me, you've succeeded just right. Your scream was genuinely terrifying, perfect for a horror movie, Dewey exclaimed, picking himself up from the ground. She drove off without saying a word to Dewey, ignoring his curses trailing behind her. She needed to stay calm and gather clear evidence before she could tell her mother or Dewey about what was happening. At least her nerves had been certified by Dewey's father, a neurology department head. Instead of worrying, she shifted her focus to excitement, despite her pounding heart. Title: Unveiling the Mystery, The Strange Encounters. Introduction. The doorbell jolted her awake as if she had just escaped a terrifying nightmare in the middle of the day. Are you sleeping? I thought no one was home. 5 missed calls, 5 doorbell rings. Are you on sleeping pills or something? She opened the door groggily. I apologize for both this morning and now. Did you come to borrow the exercise book? Oh, I already told you this morning. At 3 o'clock, and you kept me waiting with the fruit for half an hour. My stomach is already turning upside down. Why is your face pale, sweaty, and trembling like that? I had a bad dream. Her friend chuckled mockingly. Finally, something shook your nerves again. She growled and punched Quan a few times, causing him to grimace in pain, his face turning as pale as if he were watching a horror movie. The sensible decision now was to silently copy homework, lest he loses his temper and kicks her out. Strange was that tonight she tried pressing her ear against the pillow again but heard nothing. And the next night, and the night after that, she heard nothing either. She breathed a sigh of relief but still felt a lingering unease. Why hadn't she heard anything since she found out? Was it intentional? She reassured herself, whoever's playing this ghostly game with me, I'll catch them and throw them in jail, or perhaps the ghost heard her and stopped. Yikes. Just thinking about it gave her goosebumps. Just like any other day this month, her mother joined a volunteer women's group in the commune. This trip would take 3 days to nursing homes to care for patients. Tonight, she lay awake again, only falling into a fitful sleep to be awakened by the sound of a door stuck. Annoying. I told her to lock the kitchen door. How long until I can sleep again? She grumbled tiredly as she dragged herself to the kitchen. Planning to return to her room, she stumbled, but to her horror, the obstruction was gone, suspiciously flat. She contemplated whether to involve Dewey in this investigation. Though Dewey was a scaredy cat, having 2 people would make her feel safer. What? Does your house really have a secret basement? She looked at Dewey as if he were the one who said it in the first place and now was asking again. Well, I heard about it, just to scare you. Who knew you'd actually investigate? If you want to help, then do, if not, forget it. No pressure. Seeing her friend's pitiful face, Dewey felt sorry and decided to help. But how could he help when it was nighttime and he was a boy sleeping over at her house? Well, next month when my mom's away, you come over, pretend you're studying with me, and sleep over. Just say your parents sent you over to study together. Dewey agreed reluctantly. Provoked by his friend, his macho spirit flared up, and he was eager to catch ghosts that very night. This month, her mother was away for 2 days. She seized the opportunity to send her sister to their grandparents' house under the guise of studying and sleeping over, leaving no one at home. That night, the sound of a door stuck in the kitchen woke him up again. She and Dewey froze, exchanging looks. Both ran to bed, pressing their ears against the pillow. The dripping of water was clear. The sound of chains dragging heavily. And the growling. Dewey's sweat poured out. Even his saliva couldn't swallow. Dewey's limbs were cold. She told Dewey to stay still, while she ventured alone into the kitchen. She hid behind a kitchen wall. Footsteps grew louder each day. Suddenly, her mouth was gagged by a hand. A whisper in her ear, "It's me." At that moment, she only wanted to slap her friend to vent her anger. But then, another pair of footsteps approached. Who could it be this time? She felt both scared and excited, only wanting to reach out and turn on the kitchen light switch immediately. The footsteps echoed closer, and she and Dewey stood still, barely breathing. Slowly, the trapdoor opened, the light flickered, casting a shadow of a woman on the wall. It was her mother. She and Dewey were frozen, their hands and feet cold, feeling as if they were facing death. Her mother closed the trapdoor tightly, then nonchalantly placed the flat tile on top, as if she didn't know that there was a wall with 4 eyes watching. Her mother finished, went through the back door, and disappeared. It took nearly half an hour for her blood to return to her heart, her nerves to start working again. She sat down, completely bewildered. "Sister, are you awake? Get up and have some porridge, Grandma cooked it. I just called Mom. She's probably on her way back." In her hand, she fumbled through the pile of Waterboy's cables. Memories from last night came rushing back, causing her limbs to tremble, feeling cold. Dewey rushed into the house, seeing her awake and cheerful, relieved. "Thank goodness. You're awake now. I was so worried. I asked for permission to skip school for you this morning. Last night, you scared me so much, I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, you sat down and fainted. Luckily, I was able to apply some first aid skills I learned from my dad to help you. Early this morning, my dad came running over to give you some water. He said you were exhausted, that's why. What should I do, Dewey?" Tears welled up in her eyes, not knowing what to do next. Somehow, in moments like these, Dewey would act like a mature man, calm and strong. Just act normal with your mom. We're not sure what really happened. Maybe your mom was fostering a child down there. Last time, I happened to overhear Ms. Hoa at the Volunteer Women's Club telling a story. I found out that my mom doesn't participate in every volunteer month, and last month she was even a day late compared to everyone else. I suspected, but didn't want to think about it. Who knew? Hi Dewey. Thank you, dear. Without you, Mai's family wouldn't know what to do. Her mother's voice came from the door. Looking at her mother's pale face soaked in sweat, she must have been worried sick about her. But in return, her mother gave her a cold look. Dewey narrowed his eyes, trying to normalize everything. In the following days, she tried to act normal with her mother but still got caught. When her mother asked, she would deny or use schoolwork as an excuse. When her mother suggested going on a picnic next month, she cited a career orientation course at school as a reason she couldn't go. Maybe seeing her daughter tired, her mother seemed more lenient this time. She felt both loved and angry, but didn't dare to ask. After accidentally tidying up the house, she found a key buried under the dragon tree pot. Her heart raced as if about to solve a mysterious basement case. She immediately summoned Dewey and discussed a battle plan. With Dewey's skills as a boy, they found a brick where the lid of the mysterious basement was hidden. Now it was a matter of time. And of course, it was on the second day of next month when her mother was absent. That evening, a horrifying secret changed the lives of 4 people in that house. She and Dewey slowly pushed the lid of the mysterious basement open. Long, deep stairs descended, and even though it was daytime, underneath, it was as dark as night, only black covering everything. On one hand was a crucifix, on the other was a rosary tightly held in her hand. Meanwhile, Dewey held a flashlight and led the way. The darkness and the damp mildew in the basement made her feel like she and Dewey were descending into hell to meet the king of hell. The closer they got to the basement, the louder the sound of dripping water became. Splash! A drop of water fell on her head. She raised her hand to wipe it off her hair. A red color stained with the smell of blood. She wanted to scream, but immediately Dewey's hand covered her mouth. Dewey raised his finger to his lips, signaling silence, pointing to the ceiling where there was a body. It was a mouse trapped on a nail and died. Her heart seemed to stop beating for 30 seconds. She took a deep breath to calm herself, then choked on dust. Dewey frowned, expressing his dissatisfaction. If you keep acting like a ghost hunter, you'll die early. Being scolded by her friend, she thought angrily which one of them was the first to suggest this but acted as if it were his idea. Where did her courage go? She was rarely afraid. Lost in thought, she accidentally touched something hard. A cold, rough hand touched her hand, accompanied by a groan. Dewey quickly aimed the flashlight at it. In front of her was a monstrous creature with distorted eyes, nose, and mouth, its skin cracked, oozing pus, its hair messy, looking straight at her. She fell to her knees, trembling, her body shaking, her breath ragged, her eyes unblinking. The monster also responded with a strange look. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the stairs. "I've been feeling uneasy about your recent attitude. I didn't expect you to find this place." Dewey helped her stand up, pointing the flashlight straight at the woman. She tightly gripped the crucifix and the rosary in her hand, feeling like she was fighting for her life against a demon in human disguise. "I suspect you're not my mother, is that right? The person in this iron crib is my real mother, isn't she?" The woman laughed cunningly, echoing through the basement, causing cockroaches to scatter in panic, crashing into each other. "Before I became a ghost, I also lived happily with my family and children. But that despicable man betrayed me and locked me in this basement. When I was almost powerless, your mother discovered this mysterious basement and helped me survive, but it was too late. I had leprosy and died slowly. Your mother buried me very kindly. I haunt as a ghost because I haven't avenged my revenge and haven't been relieved. I found your husband's family and decided to revenge by borrowing your mother's body and letting her soul inhabit my body. But now I don't want to return to the other world anymore. The girl is smart and talented, but her intelligence will make her and this boy die. The woman's voice hardened. I can't kill your mother, but you can. The woman approached, holding a knife in her hand. The monster roared in protest, banging its hand on the iron frame as if trying to save its child from the ghost. Thump! Blood splattered. The knife stabbed into its heart. The crucifix slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. The rosary snapped in midair. Each bead, one by one, fell to the ground with a clatter. The monster's roar mingled with Dewey's desperate call echoing throughout the house. May, my, wake up. We still have ghosts to catch. She woke up in horror. She touched her heart. Everything was fine. 2 p.m., just like her appointment with Dewey. She recounted her dream to Dewey and suggested whether they should seek help. Dewey dismissed her thoughts, saying if they didn't want her house to become a museum for people to visit tomorrow. She sighed, hoping that she and Dewey would return safely. The basement looked exactly like it did in its dream, eerily similar even though it had never set foot here before. It figured every basement was built like in movies. Descending all the stairs, it silently rejoiced that not a drop of blood fell on its head. Plop! Something fell onto its hair. It trembled, raising its hand to wipe it off, only to find blood. Dewey, only it seemed, looked up at the ceiling, where a mouse was trapped between the nails. Why did everything happen exactly like its dream down to the centimeter? It nudged Dewey, who was about to shout but was silenced by its hand. Are you crazy, suddenly nudging me like that? Its friend frowned, annoyed, and walked ahead. So it wasn't a dream. It was real. It looked up at the dark staircase as if wanting to retreat. The shaky voice of its friend pulled it back to reality. The rees, so, me, one, locked, here, real, lie. It looked up. Was it the monster from its dream? It trembled in fear as it stared at the monster. Is that, Mom? The monster only growled, its hands gripping the iron frame as if wanting to be released. The monster's legs were chained to a heavy shackle, only able to move within the confines of its imprisonment. I've been feeling uneasy about your recent attitude, echoed a voice from the stairs. It turned around and shouted, let my mom go. Without thinking much, it rushed towards the woman, stabbing her in the abdomen to the astonishment of Dewey, the monster, and the woman. Blood flowed all over it. The woman managed to call out, my mom, before fainting. The sound of the ambulance siren echoed through the neighborhood. The doctor stepped out of the operating room, smiling and breathing a sigh of relief. Thank God. The stab wound wasn't deep, so it didn't affect any organs. Your mother will wake up in a moment. It sat motionless like a statue, its eyes swollen and red. No matter how much everyone comforted and consoled it, it couldn't believe it had stabbed its mom. Half an hour later, its mom woke up from the anesthesia. Everyone surrounded the bed, listening to its mom's story. In fact, the person in the basement was its dad. Its dad had contracted leprosy, disfiguring his face. When he found out he was sick, he distanced himself from its mom and it, leading its mom to misunderstand that its dad had left for another woman. Then, when his condition worsened, he was taken to a leprosy care facility. 10 years ago, while accompanying a women's group to care for leprosy patients, its mom discovered its dad. Its mom begged its dad to come back, but its dad adamantly refused to avoid affecting his wife and children. 2 years later, its dad's condition worsened. Despite its mom's love and pleas, its dad couldn't refuse anymore. The more its dad's leprosy worsened, the more he lost his face and speech. Many times its dad wanted to commit suicide because of his illness. Its mom chaining its dad's legs was to prevent him from seeking death. There was a rustling sound, surprise, and empathy clearly evident on the faces of those listening. Its mom held its and its sister's hands as tears gently flowed down her cheeks. I'm sorry for making you two worry. Please forgive me. It burst into tears like a 3-year-old child and hugged its mom tightly, crying and feeling indignant. A week later, its mom was discharged from the hospital. During that time, its dad was taken to a leprosy care facility. The bamboo trees along the road whispered in the wind's lullaby. It reached out of the car to inhale the scent of the trees, soaking up the morning sun's rays and smiling. It wanted to say so much to its dad, apologize, thank, and express the love it had for its dad all these years. Looking at its dad's hideous appearance, it ran back to hug its dad without any fear. Although it was only able to hug its dad through a thick protective coat, even though the coat was thick, it still felt its heart warming, still felt the warmth of its dad's love seeping through the rough skin. Did its dad feel the same warmth through this thick protective coat? A hot drop of water touched the medal on its forehead. It had promised not to cry in front of its dad, but its dad's hand touched the visor of the protective helmet as if wiping away its tears. The four of its family had perhaps never been happier than at this moment. More than a week later, its dad passed away. In front of the grave was a portrait of a man drawn in pencil encased in a frame, looking at it with loving eyes. Its dad would probably be very happy with this portrait it drew. My dad has never complained about life bringing this disease to him. My dad only regrets not giving all his love to my mom and his children. My dad has always been the happiest person in the world because he has 3 beautiful princesses always by his side. My dad knows you're studying law because of my dad. But my dad wants you not to give up on your dream. The dream of an architect. Building solid houses that are not only beautiful, but also filled with the laughter of fathers, mothers, and children. Immediately after, the mysterious basement was demolished. Many people wondered why it wasn't kept as a memorial to where its dad had lived, fought, and struggled with this disease. Its mom said, in everyone's heart, there is a mysterious basement of their own. It could be pain, memories, or love for someone who has left this life, and perhaps few people can find the key to that basement. But it knew that all 3 of them shared the same key to open a mysterious basement. The end.
Hopefully the content has brought you interesting and meaningful moments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Ghost Stories YouTube channel to follow the channel's next videos. See you in the next video. Have a good day.